You're tuned in to Ask the Master Auto Technician. Car questions? Get answers right now. Call 850-763-0555.
James Auto Center, we fix it right, guaranteed. Beep, 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 yeah.
All right, good morning, everybody. This is James Morris. This is Friday edition of Ask the Master Auto Technician with James and Anna Morris. I've got Hanson Hindenburg calling all the way from Baytown Tires. I know it's early in the morning, Hanson. I know you're there at work early and you're getting ready for the onslaught of people with the, they're probably recovering from the hurricane or going through it, because that's what's going to be happening in the next 24 hours. We're going to have a lot of rain, some wind, some tree limbs are going to fall down. Everybody's beside them right now.
Well, we see a lot of tire repairs after a storm because stuff just washes out into the roads.
Roof shingles blow off, and roof shingles have roofing nails.
Well, and I always recommend make sure that you have a spare just in case you need to leave and you do pick up something and you need to change the tire out. You don't want to be stuck on the side of the road without a spare that's ready to go.
That's good advice. Now, a lot of cars don't have spares. They have actually what we call fix-a-flats. Like my wife's car, I think when she bought her Crossfire, they gave her 2 cans of fix-a-flat. That's her spare tire. And I have people come in all the time and say, yeah, I put fix-a-flat in my trailer tire last month. And I look at it and go, well, that trailer tire is probably no good anymore. You probably left it in there too long, and that may be a dangerous situation. You need to take that tire apart, have them clean that stuff out, and see if it's any good. What do you know about these fix-a-flats that you can stick in there? I know a lot of people like to use it.
Well, fix-a-flat is not a permanent repair, like you said, and to do it correctly, you have to take the tire off. And realistically, we talk about it all the time, the best repair is, of course, to patch the tire. And to patch the tire has to be dry on the inside. And what happens is with fix-a-flat, then you really have to wait almost a few hours for it to dry out correctly for the patch to stick.
That's because it actually softens the rubber down there? Is that what it does?
Yeah, that's what, it's a petroleum product that goes inside there, mixed with, unfortunately, some propellants, which are alcohol-based in most cases, so you have to be careful with it as well, because it is flammable.
Yeah, you don't want to be smoking cigarettes if you take the tire across, or lighting a cigarette, because you just might have a little boom-boom on your hands.
Absolutely. You can see plenty of YouTube videos where people set that stuff on fire. And what it does, it makes the rubber, swell up. That's part of what it's supposed to be doing to fill that hole in. And what we see too often is that people drive on the tire for several days or even a week, and then, unfortunately, the tire is ruined from the inside. Yeah,
and they don't understand that when you take it apart and look at it, and you put your hand, you can almost put your finger through the inner liner of the tire because it's turned mushy. It's just like
you're right. You can take the inner liner and take your fingers and start scraping it off, basically.
And I tell people, I said, this is for temporary use only, just like those temporary battery cable ends you put on your battery to get you out of a jam. They're not to be there permanently. You can get by for a week or two, but get it fixed. But on fix-a-flat like that, I bet you don't recommend them staying in there more than a couple of days before you get it out.
No, not at all. Hopefully, you'll be able to fix it the same day that you put the stuff in there.
Yeah.
And what we see, unfortunately, sometimes, the tire's non-repairable, and that always is a, contention. Well, you could probably plug it or do this.
Yeah.
And you really can't do it so that it's a safe repair and a long-term repair.
Okay, we're talking about that, but how about now valve stems? That's something years ago, everybody had a valve stem. Everybody changed the valve stems when you put a tire on. But I'm seeing a lot of people over the years, they'll put a brand new tire on and they won't change the valve stem. One, because maybe it's a high pressure valve stem for light truck tires and they're expensive and they don't want to change them. Or they have the tire pressure monitoring system, which, those are expensive to change. But is there some service on them when you take them apart, like changing an O-ring on them to make sure they're not
right? If you're doing it correctly, that's what we do. There is a little packet that has an O-ring on it and a new nut that we put in there, because just like anything else, that rubber deteriorates and it starts leaking around the valve stem. Even if it's a TPMS sensor.
And we see that often. I mean, how many times do you see a car come into your shop? They look, the tire keeps going low. You look for nails, no nails in it. You spray it with soapy water, and all of a sudden you see it leaking around either the valve stem itself or where the tire mounts onto the wheel. We see that a lot.
Well, and like you said, where the tire on the bead, it has a tendency to leak a lot. The alloys that they use nowadays, combined with moisture and heat and everything else, and it actually starts to peel around the bead of the rim and where the tire bead sits.
I did not know that's what it called. I know that we have to clean them and put a tire bead sealer on them when we have problems with that, and that seems to work. Is that a permanent solution, or is that just a temporary solution?
Well, depending on how bad it is. The bead sealer, in most cases, is really not considered a permanent solution.
Okay.
Realistically, depending on how bad the rim is, either the rim needs to be replaced, sandblasted sometimes, or what we have is a grinder. We go around there and clean up all that debris that's accumulated on that bead.
Yeah, we'll do that too. Then put bead sealer on there just for insurance, just to make sure it's going to work. But people, you have to charge for that. People don't understand that that's not part of a tire service, because it takes time to clean up a rim, or it takes time to do this work, and it's not uncommon to spend over an hour getting a tire and wheel where they don't leak, taking them apart, cleaning them, putting them back together again. And when you tell someone, I got to charge you, $30, $40, $50 to do this, they kind of look at, what happened to the $2 patch from years ago or plug? Those are gone away, have they not?
They absolutely have. And, we talk about cleaning up where the rim sits onto the hub itself a lot of times is very rusty, or if they do off-road, it's got all kinds of dirt. So we have to clean the studs and the nuts and everything else to make sure that it's a secure fit.
Yes.
Because if it doesn't fit snugly on there, then you have a good likelihood that the tire could come off.
That's a good point. Now, mag wheels. I have a lot of people over the years, they've put new mag wheels on, and they come, I see them, 2 months later, and a wheel's loose. And they go, how did that happen? I said, well, when you buy these new wheels, they'll tell you to recheck the torque after the first 100 miles. And they look at me like I'm from outer space. I never saw that. And I said, well, go check it out. Don't you see that too? Recheck torque?
Everybody that we put new wheels on, with, like you said, between the first 50 to 100 miles, you better show back up and let's retorque them.
Yeah, if you don't, they're going to come loose. And that's just
and they will, and some people are good about it, and some people will ignore that, and then I've even seen it to where didn't fall off, but loosened up enough to where it wallowed the new rim out. The holes in the rim.
And that's very important. People, and people don't understand about torquing. I was over at a shop yesterday, and they were getting ready to put the torque wrench, we're going to put a torque wrench on, which I'm real proud of using a torque wrench. And the guy who had the torque wrench dropped the torque wrench on the ground, picked it back up, and proceeded to torque the wheels. I went and looked at it, I said, does that happen often? They go, well, yeah, we drop them all the time. I said, well, every time you drop a torque wrench, you really lose the torque. The calibration goes away. I said, it might be, I'm not trying to be a Mr. Know-It-All, but you might want to recheck the torque, because if you're having problems with wheels not being torqued correctly or out around rotors, this may be the cause.
Well, and the Tire Industry Association went around and checked torque wrenches, and they saw a lot of shops using torque wrenches, which is great. But most of them hadn't been calibrated in
years,
decades, probably.
Years. I don't think they ever get. We've got to the point right now about every 6 months they come by and we swap out torque wrenches, and they send, and we just keep moving them around, and they usually find them between 2 to 8 pounds off. Is what they tell me.
Yeah, and that's about right. They found that between 10 to 20% is what they're usually off. So, you're really defeating the purpose. And we talked about the other day is people like to put stuff on studs, and it's a dry torque.
And that's what people don't understand. There's a lubricated torque, which we do head bolts and things like that with. It has to be lightly lubricated. But when we're coming to putting tires on, they have to be dry. It has to be completely dry, no anti-seize, no oil, no lubricant. And some people who are from up north where it gets so rusty up there from salt, they look at me like I'm from outer space. And I say, I really need to clean all this off before I put your wheel back on. They go, well, I'm going back up to Minnesota. And I go, well, yeah, you're going to go to Minnesota, but you're also going to have a wheel that won't be tight correctly if I don't do this.
And you look at, I see, sometimes do-it-yourselfers, they want to do a good job and use the torque wrench. And they have like 20 different adapters on there to make the socket fit.
Yes.
And you lose torque with each connection. So by the time you've used, 2 adapters and a socket, you've lost probably about 20 pounds of torque.
It very easily do. People don't realize the importance of that. Now, the other one, we got a few minutes left. We've got 3 minutes here. Brake torque variation. Mark Sarlo was talking about it a few weeks ago, where the pad will actually embed into the rotor, causing a thicker and thinner spot on your rotors, getting that vibration that you and I used to consider, brake rotor were warped. But he's saying they're seeing a lot of that, and it's called brake pad torque variation, where the brake pads actually embed into the rotors. Due to different metallurgy, they're not compatible between the pads and the rotors themselves. Like aftermarket, they're not always compatible, is what he was saying, and it'll cause that. I didn't know if you've seen that or not, or in your experience.
Absolutely right, and that's the reason some people, when they come here, I got this set of pads that I bought, and it's really an inexpensive set of pads.
Yep.
So we want to always recommend that you go with OE-specific formulation.
Absolutely.
And most people go like, well, it's not that important.
But
it makes a huge difference on how components wear. And we were talking the other day, about foreign cars, and that's especially true for foreign cars.
We were talking about Volvos, Mercedes, and some of these cars out here, you have to buy, like Volvo. If you don't buy Volvo pads, Volvo rotors, you get that dreaded eek. No matter what you do, it's always going to squeal on you unless you put factory equipment on them.
And that's what I always recommend. And people go, well, I don't want to spend the money, but most people have regret after they, put a cheaper pad on their Mercedes and go, well, I'm feeling noises and it doesn't feel quite the same. And 9 times out of 10, especially if you have certain brake pedal movement, is it just due to the pad.
It is. People don't really understand that, how pad contact or shoe contact on the drum affects vibration and all that. And it's, I'm just amazed at sometimes the stuff that I take for granted are very simple to me. They're complicated to others because I've been in this for over 40 years now. I see a lot of things that I just take for granted are supposed to be done, like drums are supposed to be tight to the shoes and things like that. And I got some newbies out there, they'll put shoes that are not adjusted correctly to the drums, and they wonder why the wheel's locking up. And I go, well, that's because those shoes are cocking so bad, they're locking the drums up. You cannot put one together incorrectly.
And
it has to be adjusted.
What we see a lot, too, is people wind up with, like you said, Volkswagens, Hondas, even Toyotas, and they don't use the right brake fluid.
Oh, boy.
That is very important.
It is.
Some of these, somebody put some wrong brake fluid in a Mini the other day, and you have no pedal. And you have brake fluid in there, but it needs a DOT 4 and 5. Or if you put a regular DOT 3 brake fluid in there, it just doesn't work. It
will not work. There is a problem. Hanson, we're up against the clock. I want to thank everybody for listening to you today. They're listening, and we're going to make sure that people come visit you at Baytown Tires, and if they want to, they can call you at 873-8900, and you'll be open Monday through Saturday unless you're underwater, right?
I doubt it, but we're going to be putting up the storm shelter today, so we'll be here hunkered down in our bunker.
All right. Well, you be good, and I'll talk to you later. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody. See y'all tomorrow morning.
James Auto Center, we fix it right,